It's like my hair grew 3 inches in 3 days. I don't know how it did, but it did. Alright, so let's do this. The American. That is a strange title. That's like calling The Professional the Italian, or James Bond the Brit, or Hard Boiled the Chinese. That's the only singular I could find. But The American actually wasn't the anti-American propaganda piece that people seem to think it's gonna be. It's actually the story of a hitman slash gun craftsman played by George Clooney. And that's pretty much it. I mean, yeah, there is a love story between him and this hooker in the movie, and he has to make a gun for someone, but pretty much that is it. I mean, yeah, the movie had a couple of interesting parts, but it had like 5 pages of dialogue spread across 2 hours. But it mostly consisted of George Clooney either walking and walking, or sitting and staring, just thinking about what it all means. And a couple of phone calls. You know, just the regular boring stuff that Oscar contenders are usually made of nowadays. Now, the parts that I did find interesting were when it showed him doing his craft, like when he was making a silencer out of scrap and he was gathering parts for it. That was kind of cool. And then you realize when a guy's job is more interesting than him, that's not good. And I liked how professional these people were, you know, all 2 of them that it showed, but I like how they had to dispose of evidence and watch their back. You know, I like seeing hitmen and women work, what can I say? But I also like being interested while watching it. You know, it's always the little things with movies, like wanting them to entertain you while you watch them. I'll explain it this way. If I were to get a science textbook, generally speaking, the subjects in that book would be interesting. That being said, it would bore me shitless to read it for 2 hours. Best I can do to compare it. I mean, George Clooney's character's dull and uninteresting. You start to care where his romance is going, then you just get bored. I mean, at a point, I stopped and realized that I have a more interesting relationship. And I'm single. The most exciting and also only chase sequence in this movie has boring music that plays during it, for God's sakes. I mean, at least make the music exciting. And then I just stopped caring altogether when I thought I figured out how this movie's gonna end. And rest assured, when you think you know how this movie's gonna end, you do. So I actually had to come up with a new rating for this movie, which is, it's Oscar worthy. And by that I mean long, boring, drawn out, and dull. It's a 24. So I personally don't like being bored, and 2 interesting scenes, one of which had to do with him sitting at a table building a silencer, just wasn't enough. So just go to Starbucks and watch a guy sip coffee while he just sits there in his own thoughts. If that's not your thing, you might want to skip on Rip Van Hitman movie. But as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, then click right here to see more.